Tonight, Decatur's police chief revealing he believes the officers involved in that deadly shooting violated department policy. Chief Todd Pinion says they've sent the final report and findings to the legal department to move forward with the discipline process. WAAY 31's Manny McCaffrey spent all evening in River City tonight as protesters came to City Hall to respond to this. Some saying this information from the chief is too late.
Nikel, shortly after Chief Pinion released his statement, more than 100 people, including the wife of Steve Perkins, gathered here at City Hall and began a march throughout Decatur.
Hey folks, Dale Jackson here for Yellowhammer Now. We got to talk a little bit about these police shootings. You got one in Mobile, you got one in Decatur. And as you just heard from WAAY 31 in Huntsville, the one in Decatur, it's still a giant mess. Why? Well, because they're not putting out very much information, and they're letting people fill in the gaps. And those people who are filling in the gaps are filling in those gaps in ways that do not really benefit anyone because they don't have the information they need, and they're still not really giving them information they can use. Now, I'll give you an example. On Friday, the chief of police, Todd Pinion, said, hey, the officers involved violated some policies. That's it. He didn't really lay out what those policies were, how they were violated, what the punishment is, and all that did was fire people up and piss them off. It didn't make anything better. It made things worse.
But things got out of hand shortly before 8 when one man took a hammer and smashed the windows of the Little Cigar Lounge. I watched as this happened. This person took off running, and a group of protesters ran after to try and catch him. They tell me this person tried to pull a weapon on them, so they backed off. Protesters with the Justice for Steve Perkins movement say they don't know the identity of the man, and the movement condemns any violence. Decatur police were called to this scene, and as of now, we believe they are still looking for this person. As for Chief Pinion's statement, some say it came too late.
Right, and we can see how the police department and leadership of Mobile came together to release that information with a quickness so that they could, deal with what comes after that. And we just see that in Decatur, we're going on week 7. We haven't been given any more direction, any more leadership from our leaders. The only thing they do is try to safeguard themselves from what's going on instead of just coming out and being transparent about what's going on.
In that video, you just heard some of the people out there protesting where it got crazy, windows broke, somebody with a gun or weapon of some kind had an issue. But they laid out exactly what one of their problems is. How come in Mobile we can have the family see the video, but in Decatur you can't? See, this is a problem. And I have a solution, and I've made this argument many, many times. It is time for the Alabama legislature to come up with a general rule for when these videos can be seen. There is too much gray area here. It needs to be crystal clear when you will be able to see the videos. Is it after the investigation? Is it before the investigation? Is it during the investigation? You got to make it clear when people can see these videos. And here's the deal. When we went through all of this and body cams became more prevalent, it was so people could see what was going on. Okay, now we know that people can see this. And more often than not, police are cleared in these situations. So when you don't release the video right away, you find yourself in a situation where people are going to fill in the blanks. And they're not going to fill in the blanks in favor of law and order. They're going to fill in the blanks in the favor of chaos. And that is exactly what is happening here. And this is the fault of the city of Decatur. They don't have to do things this way. They're choosing to do these things this way. And I think it's up to the legislature to make sure that they stop giving all this leeway to the cities. And I know what a lot of you are saying, leave it up to the cities, let them make the decisions. They're proving that that's not good enough. We need to know when we're going to be able to see these videos, and we should be able to see them. When something like this happens, we should be able to see the video so we know exactly what went down. Blur out the violence, the faces, whatever you need to do in order to make that happen. But people should be able to see why things went down the way they did. And if you tell me the law says after the investigation you'll be able to see the video, people will be completely fine with that. There's literally no reason to go out and protest. Some will. That's fine. They can. They have the right to do so. But it would make it clear that there's really no reason for them to be out there because they're going to get what they want eventually, just not right at this moment. And I think that's what's happening in Decatur. But because there's so much gray area here, and you see what happened down in Mobile, where it was released sooner, they have a reason to be upset about this. Now, the city of Decatur has handled this terribly, and I have suggested that everyone from the city council to the police chief be done with their job because they're not very good at it. Because they have made this problem worse with their handling of it. But that really doesn't matter at this point. The legislature needs to do something about it, and they need to do it in the next legislative session.